Thank you for your wonderful questions, guys. We thought we may as well ask Johnny all of them. Starting with, Johnny, what's your ethnic, Yusuf? Do you know my ethnic?
What's your ethnic, Yusuf? So right, I see. So it's a question for you, Yusuf. It's not what is the thing that I have that is called an ethnic, Yusuf. Maybe that is what they're asking.
The eye of the beholder. This is from Daryl.
Yusuf was born, I believe, in the same hospital as me.
Islamabad.
Born in...
Islamabad General Hospital.
Islam is not bad, man. It's good.
What is some low-hanging fruit to reduce injury in the gym?
Low-hanging fruit.
It's a good question.
Have good technique. That's the lowest hanging.
Yeah, if you're going to put an exercise in your program, watch a few YouTube videos about it, get some, video yourself doing it, and don't max out, especially at the expense of technique. I think very few people need to max out ever, but a very large proportion of people do. Even powerlifters shouldn't be maxing in the gym, at least.
I fully agree with you. I've been having some very interesting conversations with my coach about this recently, and you sent me a video from Johnny Candido where he's talking about, people top powerlifters. If you actually watch them train, they're often going nowhere near failure. I think it was Ed Cohen saying something like, there is never an excuse ever to miss a lift.
Well, because they're using
apart from maybe
heavy weights, aren't they? So the weights are already heavy. You don't need to make it harder for yourselves.
Oh, I don't want to put any more weight on, mate. You see, there's loads on there.
So this is a nice one from Sean. Nothing really. Just hope you boys are doing well and getting through lockdown in one piece. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Same to you.
We're almost at the end of lockdown, supposedly, unless the new mutant syphilis strain comes out.
Yeah,
but
it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think it depends on what happens with... Because I just look at it and think they're trying to roll out all this stuff and they're trying to make all these little tiny changes, like reopening schools, and there's all these big question marks of, well, who knows what that'll do. But here's an arbitrary timeline that's based on a lot of guessing that we kind of hope will work. But yeah, it should hopefully by the end of this year, it's all fine.
That is a good point. It feels like a really elaborate trick shot with pool or snooker. So you've got 8 balls, all angled in different ways. And the idea is you hit the first ball, and if you get it just right, it hits all the remaining ones at just the perfect angle to knock the final one in the hole. And we haven't done the trick shot before. We don't.
And it should work.
It's going to work.
But it should.
It
should. So let's do a big BBC News announcement about it. And if it doesn't, then we'll just say, well, it wasn't our fault.
It's because people
won't blame me,
sticking
mate.
to the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because Yusuf moved the white ball at the beginning.
Andy Lagoob. Great name. How to brainstorm ideas without sinking into masturbation. P.S. Love you. Mental masturbation, he said.
Right. Not just general masturbation.
Yeah. We have a video on this exact topic on our YouTube channel.
Do we? Oh, thank God for that.
Well, thanks.
I was going to say...
And it's actually I'm really proud of it. It's one of the best frameworks that we have. And it's how to create a conveyor belt of content that you never run out of and is always perfectly targeted for your audience and adds the most value. So Andy Lagoob, have a listen to that on our YouTube channel.
I would add to that. You have to go to youtube.com. If you go on there, there's loads of stuff on there. Have you ever been on youtube.com? Brilliant. I think it's one of the best websites. Honestly. But yeah, sorry, youtube.com/propane fitness. Is that our official URL?
Yeah.
That's our area, isn't it, on that website? Did you send me the thing of if Google was a person and it's a guy in an office?
Fantastic.
And people are typing in, people are going in with, my grandson.
And it's a really, disgruntled middle-aged man who's
the thing about
a bureaucrat.
If you really think about... So I suppose this is, the problem with training AI, right, is that question, typing my grandson into Google... I know it seems stupid, but actually, is it that stupid?
Not if you're an old woman and someone tells you Google is the brain of
Yeah,
the world.
exactly. So like you type in something you want to find. Like, all right, well, I want to find my grandson. It's like you can see how there's all these kind of like conditional things you've got to also consider before you say, well, here's a search engine, type in whatever you want. But anyway, that's not related. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. Firstly, the question that one of our business coaches in the past used to ask us was, so someone would say, like, so in like, why are you brainstorming? It's like, oh well, I don't really know the answer. And the question is, but if you did know, what would it be? And the point being, you probably already, like, before you start brainstorming, you probably know what you should be doing anyway. For the most part, if it's like where to begin or brainstorming ideas, like you've probably got an idea for a bit of content. So just do that first, gain a bit of momentum before you like write out the mind map and spend 2 hours writing out the mind map before you've actually done anything. But it depends what you're writing out the mind map for.
Yeah, there's probably an obvious answer that you're holding at bay because it's maybe a bit uncomfortable or you don't want to hear it. But just Tony Robbins yourself, and because he's the pioneer of that question of if you did know, what would it be?
Anthony.
Good old Anthony. Erkamok says, can you run with a herniated disc, or 3 in my case? I have no pain. Listen to the podcast we did with Stu McGill. It's a long one, but it is fantastic. The key question I have for you, Erkamok, is why do you know that you have 3 herniated discs if you have no symptoms? If you've found them incidentally, then bear in mind that 50% of people who you just do an MRI spine on will have abnormal morphology of the spine. They'll have abnormal disc bulges or whatever, but the person wouldn't know about it until you see it radiologically. So the radiology and the images don't always correlate with how someone's symptoms are, and you can have the opposite as well. You can have someone who has on the MRI like a perfectly normal looking spine, but they're debilitated by pain. So it's not always a clear relationship between the images and the symptoms that you're getting. But in terms of whether you can run, you need to see a GP or a physio and get yourself signed off for doing that, especially if there's any details we've missed there from that Instagram question.
Can you run?
I can run. I don't like it. I choose not to.
But you could if you wanted to.
If I had to.
What would it take to convince you to do a half marathon?
I think like a brain tumour.
Wow.
Like something.
So you need some kind of permanent, some really serious illness.
Something that would change the operation of my mind.
Do you ever see the appeal of like... So I thought like you meant, because that'll, then I'll raise money for charity. But like actually what you mean is you would need a physical intervention in the structure of your brain. Right. So you don't feel like, oh, well, it's difficult, so I'll do it because it's difficult, it's a challenge. You just don't believe that hype, do you?
I think these kind of physical challenges are just asking for injury. So I know we interviewed a guy who fractured his T10 vertebra doing a charity 1,000 backflips in 24 hours challenge. And his mate was doing a 500 muscle ups in 24 hours at the same time. And he like tore his rotator cuff. So they both ended up with an injury they've carried for a long time.
Permanent injury.
Yeah.
Well, Julian's still got the issue, right?
Yeah.
So for that reason, don't do any bloody running.
Don't
be careful.
Do it. Client check-ins through Excel versus Docs. Google Docs is what we recommend. I'm guessing, so this is from Omcar Fitness Coach. I'm guessing he means sending an Excel file back and forth. That causes a nightmare of sync issues because we used to do it actually way back, and it was a nightmare because someone makes a change on one side of it and instantly you've got sync conflicts. Google Docs allows you to just be able to see the client's details very quickly without any kind of sending anything back and forth. You can check in on them. It's brilliant. We have a full article on that on propane-business.com. And I think we're going to have to wrap it up there.
We are, sadly. Is that all the questions, or are there more?
There's 3 left. So because Johnny has to talk to this person about a business opportunity from Nigeria, of his late great uncle.
Shall I just pie it? I probably can't buy it now. I've emailed
No,
her.
I was going to
It's
say
just going. It's going to be a fucking waste of time. That's what's so annoying about it. And this is not a waste of time.
Do you want to?
I need Zoom.
There's 3 left. I could either just do them and then wrap up, or
Why don't I try and get her off the phone in 15 minutes and then we'll continue.
Cool.
Right.
So we have 3 questions left. Johnny's going to quickly speak about this business opportunity. And
I'll come back and tell you what the business opportunity was.
Oh, brilliant.
How's that for a cliffhanger? Brilliant.
Wow.
Great.
Okay.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'll speak to you soon.
But
So we are now recording.
wonderful.
But I assume you can't say why.
Oh, yeah, well, I can. I'm being paid £1,400 a month from my employer currently.
It's still a tax code problem.
Yeah. It's not even a tax code issue. I think they've just got it wrong.
Yeah. That's not us that have his tax code wrong. I do want to clarify that.
We've never
No.
yeah, but it's only taken 8 months to get sorted. So
It goes by in the blink of an eye. 8 months, isn't it? So we're back after a short, sharp. Maybe Benny can do some trendy stuff with like noises and something like that. But we are back. I've had my business opportunity. Didn't go ahead with it.
your late great uncle didn't leave you anything in the will after all.
Yeah. Turns out that he wanted me to send him the money, which
A
is
small
not
deposit, so that he can release the funds.
And it was at that point I thought, you know what, this just doesn't quite seem legit to me. Up until then, I thought, sometimes, you don't always know who's in your family. Maybe I do have a great uncle who has lots of hidden gold.
And you said, hang on, this seems a bit fishy to me. There is no bonanza going on here. If you have ever been on http:// YouTube, you need to see a guy called James Veach who responds to spam emails, and he documents the back and forth, and it is absolutely genius, really well crafted.
So there's one specific one, which is where the Bonanza reference comes from, where he basically has this email back and forth, and the spammer is trying to send him the gold, and it's just the spammer gets more and more annoyed with him as he just doesn't take the guy seriously. It's so funny.
It's great. So
where
Johnny,
were we?
Do you have to have a website to make an email opt-on page?
No. Well, yes and no. So can you collect an email address without an email?
Sorry, I was
opt in. No.
Reading the text.
Okay, so I think I assume this is that this person's setting up an online fitness business. They're wondering, do I need a website, basically? Firstly, what are you collecting the emails for? Because if you don't have somewhere to put them, I wouldn't even bother initially. Secondly, you don't need a website for that if you know why you're collecting the emails. Thirdly, I would have some kind of landing page or opt-in page on your website when you make it, but that should be a project that's way down the line. You don't want that to be something that's a priority right now if you're just beginning.
Good answer. We actually have a full episode answering the wider picture of that.
A step further than that, we have a full series.
Oh, yeah. And that's just episode 5 in the series.
One of many.
On should you and how do you set up a website for an online fitness business to be maximally profitable.
Yusuf used to have a real bugbear about people who'd ask us questions about it. We'd go to events and people would be like, guys, how do you make an online fitness business work? I'm thinking about going online. And then Yusuf would say, have you got a website? Go, no, I haven't done that yet. But I feel like our perspective is gone.
The first step of being an online fitness business, and you don't have the online
anything.
part.
But I suppose the more nuanced answer is Like, yes, it's important, but maybe not right on day one.
Yeah, you have to have an offer first and a way to deliver that offer.
Yeah.
But that's for another series. Can you define concurrent periodization? Do they mean conjugate? Or to be honest, I'm not familiar with that term.
Concurrent periodization.
Unless they mean so daily undulating periodization might be
Concurrent.
Concurrent, where you're basically training for multiple goals at the same time. Okay, I've just looked it up, and that's exactly what it said. Yeah, so
I was going to look at who's asking the question.
so DUP is what we know that name by, which is that you would say, rather than doing a 4-week block of strength followed by 4 weeks of hypertrophy, then dynamic effort or whatever, you just do them all throughout the week. So Monday would be your heavy strength day, Wednesday might be your dynamic effort day, and then Friday would be your reps day, for example. So yes, that is the definition.
But we didn't know that was a definition until just a moment ago.
So there we go.
Conjugate, though, which is a very similar word, is very different to that.
Yeah.
But
Big Louie.
Big Lou.
Rahman asks, how many shits a day is too many?
That's a great question. Is there a medical line in the sand? Like if someone comes to you and says, I have 7 poos a day, would you say, no, that's too many?
I'd have to categorize them. So you'd say, what type are they and how? So I think that my framework would be, so frequency is one thing, and you've got volume, like the size of the poo, and you've got consistency, which is the Bristol stool chart. So if someone's having 10 type 7s, like 10 really loose ones, then yeah, something's wrong. Like you'd probably want to do a stool sample and culture. If they're having 10 type 1s, which is like little rabbit pellets, they're probably constipated, and they're probably only doing like one little pellet each time, assuming it's low volume. If it's high volume, high frequency type 4s, they're just doing a lot of poos, then they've either been backed up for a long time and they're just, clearing the backlog, or they're just eating a load of food and their digestion's fine. I don't think it's sustainable to have like 16 poos a day of normal type, because you haven't got the room for it.
We haven't got the schedule, the calendar.
That's it.
I love how whenever I see you answer a medical question, it's just a series of like, if this then that, isn't it? It's a series of, it's a diagnostic checklist of like, well, is it the following or is it the following? Well, if it's this, then it's probably this or this. If it's not that,
I mean that's because I'm relatively junior. Well, I'm a quote senior house officer, but that's still, on the scale of 0 to ninja, it's early on. When you see the senior consultants in a particular field apply their algorithms, they're obviously it's like seeing the flowchart is thousands of steps long, but they just move through it with such speed, and they'll just discount large amounts of it, being like, nope, that's not.
They are the flowchart.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's kind of like what we spoke about in what will have been the last episode of like, you just have a feeling about something. Like you wake up and you're like, a bit tired today. Like, should probably go easy. Or like you go in the gym and you start training, it's like, feels a bit heavy. That's just because you've been you for ages, and you have all this data, and a consultant's just seen so many people ask that poo question.
That there's always cases of like a consultant coming into a hospital and just like seeing someone from the end of the bed and being like, can you send an amylase, or like,
really,
that man needs admitting, or it's the occasional thing of just like, there's just a pattern or something that they spot from a distance without even examining them, and they're like, do this.
It's great that we have those people in the health service, isn't it?
Surprisingly underpaid and
weapons
overworked.
grade.
Yeah. But there we go.
What's the next question?
That's it.
No, it's not.
Questions.
Or were you just telling me that? Was that like the podcast answer? But they're right, because there's definitely more questions.
No, that we've bashed through them.
Nope.
Oh. Shall I refresh? Maybe there's some that have come in that
There's two
time.
more. So what sort of challenges have you had running a successful business as a partnership?
I think we covered this on an episode. Oh, you know what? It was on a different person's podcast. It was on Danny Miranda.
We answered it individually.
Yep.
What did you say? I can't remember what I said.
Have a skill set that complements the person you're going into business with, and have a like don't bring your ego into it, and basically operate on like frameworks that you both agree on.
Yeah.
I think that's the summary, basically.
I don't know whether we've... Yeah.
Hey, Danny.
Quite weird, really. It's like... No, I'm Johnny. We've been through this, Yusuf. We always have this argument.
Make sure you know who it is.
Yusuf waits till I'm not talking, then he tries to call me Danny Miranda and hopes I won't notice. You know when someone says, like, there's a couple that have been together years and they've never had an argument, and the reply's always like, "Ooh, like, you're going to have a big one." I don't think in 10, 11 years now of operating, we've had an argument.
We're not very, like, fiery people. So I think...
We'll disagree on things. But I think when we disagree, it's because one of us just doesn't yet clearly enough understand what the other person's trying to communicate. And when you get to that, it's like, all right, yeah, I understand.
So I suppose then the lesson from that is, like, you both have to be aligned with the goal.
The North Star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
North Star.
So that's a great, and is it, I think you use that phrase, right? The North Star?
I've probably stolen it from someone, but yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying like you came up with it.
I know, the North
The North Star. Yeah, that's Yusuf's star in the sky. Put it up there. It took you ages. But I think
as a metaphor for podcasting.
If you're not clear on that, then it is very easy to have like daily little disagreements, and you think that what you're arguing about is a little tactical thing, when actually the reason why you're arguing is the bigger goal. We work with quite a few like teams and groups of people. I think they're generally pretty good. I suppose it's...
Yeah, there's actually a really good video someone sent me a while ago, which it's called the 12 Characteristics of an Enlightened Relationship. And it's not about like romantic relationships necessarily. It's just about like any like significant relationship you have with someone. And it talks through like all these different aspects that make things go smoothly. And they're all very much related to keeping ego in check, not trying to just like, not being like vengeful and petty. And he gives like counter examples of like marriages that go wrong where one person's like trying to make the other person suffer for a mistake that they made like 10 years ago, or all that kind of stuff. And it's really fascinating. I'll put the link in the show notes actually. It's a very wise German man in a pink shirt.
He's had a few relationships in his time.
Yeah.
Knows a thing or two. I think a good test for is the person a good business partner or not is if you were taken, like held hostage and being held in some kind of very like aggressive third world country prison, and you could assemble a team from within the prison, a team of people to get you out by any means necessary.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where that's from, because George McGill mentioned that recently as well.
So I think George asked me the question. This is going back a while ago.
It was like,
so I
pick your friends as people who can get you out of jail, who would be able to get you out of jail.
Get you out of jail, but is it specifically a foreign jail?
I can't remember.
Because getting,
I mean, foreign jail would be awful.
Because I've asked quite a few people this question, like who would you pick? So it'll originate from George, because I mean most I like weird concepts like this do, but I think it's a good test.
Chris as well, because he'd have shagged the person, the owner of the council that's the prison guard.
I'm thinking you're in some awful like dingy prison where like the guards are unreasonable and like the laws aren't the same, and you've got to get over there. And I just think anyone else would be on the team, and they would come to something technical. They would come to something that involved a laptop, and it would take them an hour and a half, and that would be the thing that got me killed.
Yeah.
Like, I've been on calls with Yusuf where on the call he's fixed a problem or arranged something, because you just hear like keys in the background, done. And that will be in booking the flight, getting the access codes for the prison. So you've got to make sure that your business partner would be on that team.
Cracking discount on the flight as well.
It might get rerouted, and we might have to go like via somewhere else, but you'd get there for a lower rate than anyone else.
It'd be via Islamabad and Manchester,
and Manchester
we'd get there.
And then I think we are now out of time for a third time today in this recording session.
Well, that was beautiful. As always, if you want to send us a voice message or a written message, but any questions that you have for us, then the best way is to record it via your iPhone voice recorder, because obviously you don't use an Android. Don't be silly. And email the audio file to us. If you're happy for us to play it on the podcast, we will, and we will help you with your problems. Any problem.
Any.
Stuck in a foreign jail, we'll help you.
We'll damn well try. Right? I'm recording, aren't I? Bye.